Welcome back to Beginning Watercolor for Kids with Miss Carrie. Today we are going to do some wet on wet painting with our watercolors. So I have here some smaller pieces of watercolor paper. I cut them down into 5x7s just because it makes it a little bit easier to make your work, and you don't waste as much paper when you mess up, because mistakes happen, and then you don't feel as bad when you're not wasting a whole piece of paper. So we'll start with one. I'm going to be doing the rough side up, or the bumpy side up. And you want to make sure that you have your paint handy, your paper towel, and of course, water. For wet on wet painting, just like we did with the elephant last time, we're going to make some scenery today. So I want you to go ahead, get the biggest brush that you have, and just paint water all over your page. We're going to do half at a time because you can only really work with so much on a page here. So get about half of your paper wet with water. Give it a minute or two to kind of soak into your paper. Then we're going to add another layer. That's just going to help keep the paper wet and usable for what we're going to do today. So go ahead and get your brush wet one more time and go over your paper. We're going to create a wash, and I'm going to start with some blue. So you can do light blue, dark blue, whatever your choice is. Let's see if I can make this a little brighter for you. There you go. So I'm going to get my paint really wet, and we're just going to make a wash that goes over your paper. Now if you want to get super professional on the whole thing, you can tape your paper around with masking tape. I don't tend to do that with my work. So you don't have to necessarily, unless your paper is really buckling. Then you tape around the edges. And then you can start to make some darker tones in there. So just grab some more paint. We're just going to wash it on down. Nice broad strokes all the way across. This is going to make your sky. And there's our horizon line right there. So you can continue to add darker paint. Just keep gently going across. And then maybe we'll add a darker layer right here. That's where it's going to change over for the horizon. All right. So let's get the rest of our paper wet. Clean off your brush, get that wet down there, get up to that line that you made. And this is going to erase any harsh lines that you might have. So we're going to continue on with blue. So we have a darker line right here, that's our horizon line. And we'll make it lighter as we get down there. All right. Now we're going to add some green to it. So if you only have the three primary colors, of course you're going to want to mix the yellow and the blue to get your green. I think I can do that with my transparent yellow over here and grab some blue. It makes a really pretty green. Just like that. Now we're going to add some land. So we have a sky. We're going to make some trees here. And reflection into the water. Now we're going to let this dry. Then we're going to add some more detail to it. So set this one aside. I'm going to let it dry. You can always dry yours with a hairdryer if you wish. I don't have that with me, so I'm not going to use that today. But if you don't like watching paint dry, that's a quick way to get it to be dry. Alright, for this one, if your water is too dirty, then go ahead and get clean water, but if it's not too tinted, then you can use the same water. Go ahead and we're gonna get our paper wet again. This one will make a little flower scene. So try and get all of your paper wet this time. So you can use reds and oranges for this one, yellows if you desire, and then we'll be using some green. So we're gonna, these are all backgrounds. This is a good way to paint backgrounds for things when you get all of your paper wet. We're just gonna make some flowers and think about what a flower looks like in your mind, and we're just going to dot the paint on and let it do its job. Let it spread out. I'm going to switch colors, so make sure to clean your brush if you're switching colors. We'll get some orange in there. And kind of let the paint do the work. So maybe I'm making this one a more rounded flower. And we'll go back and when it's dry and put a little bit more detail in. Now we're going to grab some green. So you can make your green, or if you already have a green on your palette, you can use that. And we're just going to bring down some stems. And maybe you want some leaves on there. And we'll go back and add more to that one here in just a minute. So go ahead and put that one out to dry. By the time we get through all four, the first one will be dry. All right. Our next one will be a tree scene. So go ahead and wet your background. And I'm going to show you some different techniques that you can use for wets as well. So think of like a trail going down, a winding trail maybe, and some big trees here and smaller trees as it gets out. So we're going to use brown first, if you have brown. If not, you can mix your colors until you get a nice brown. Alright, now we're going to grab some green. Just going to make sure this is still wet up here. And grab some lighter green. And we'll start up here, making making some pine trees, and you just go back and forth dabbing. There we go. Now you can see better. Back and forth. You can take the base of your paintbrush and kind of make a line that goes upwards. That'll collect some, and that can be the trunk of the tree. And we're going to make another tree a little bit smaller in the background here. And I know they don't quite look like trees yet, but as we add more paint, we'll let them dry just a little bit. And again, you can use the base of your brush to make some lines for the trunk. We're going to go ahead and add a little bit of sky to this. I'm going to go with a lighter blue. While it's still wet, we can just add some sky. You don't have to fill it all in, because then it looks like there's clouds in the sky. Just like that. Now over here, probably should have some green. Not tree-like, but more grass-like. So let's get that area wet again, because it is dried up. And grab some green, and we'll wash it on there. Alright, we're going to set that aside and let that dry. And our last one is just going to be a pretty background that maybe you can write a pretty word on there, or a pretty saying, a quote maybe, make a card for somebody, and you can just go wild with this one and put whatever colors on there that you choose, but make sure it's nice and wet, and you're using the bumpy side of your paper. Alright, so pick out your favorite colors. You can mix them, or you can use whatever colors that you have on your palette. I'm going to put some purple in here, and some red. Colors that go really good together are the ones that you can mix. So if you're doing blues, do blue, green, and yellow. If you're doing reds, do red, purple, and blue. There's a lot of colors that you can mix in there. And it's fun because you can just pull it right into another area and have it just split out. So if you're down here's getting a little dry, then put some more water on. Add some pinks. You can make it as dark as you want. That one had some black in there, must be. That's okay. just like that. All right, we're going to let that dry before we write on it. Carefully put that over there and go ahead and grab your first painting. Should be pretty, not super dry, but not the wet as it was. So now we're going to put our big brush away, and I'm going to use the medium size brush here. We're going to make this a little bit more defined with my blue. So it's still going to spread out just a little bit just because it is still wet, but that's okay. I want this to be like water. And then if you have too much going on there, you can take your wet brush and bring it back across. Just like so. Alright. Rinse my brush. I'm going to grab some of that green that we made. And again, you want that horizon line in there. And put some color in there. Get your big brush. Dry, clean and dry. And then you can spread that out. Just like so. Alright. So now we can define our trees maybe. By adding some more green to it. And again, you can use the base of your brush to kind of give it a trunk there in the middle. Pull some more green. Give it a trunk. Now the reason I don't do the trunk all the way up, because it's very rare that you see the trunk all the way up in a pine tree. Sometimes you do, but usually there's branches in the middle somewhere. And I'll do some little ones. And there you have it, a nice little watercolor scene of a lake. There's the first one. Alright, let's go back to our flowers. Mine are still a little bit wet, but again, I'm going to use my small brush to kind of add some definition to those. So go ahead and grab the same colors that you used, and we're going to just define some more stuff here. And if you don't like how it looks, you can always take your big brush again. Take the water off of it after you've cleaned it, and then just blend it. Now these are more of an abstract flower. We'll do the same thing down here. And the wetter your paint is, the easier it is to move it around on the paper. So if you don't like what it looks like, then you just take a drier brush and remove some of it. You're not going to be able to remove all of it, but it also helps you give definition and shadow and things like that. Move on to my orange. All right. My orange flower is just a bunch of dots. Let's make our stems have a little bit more definition. Alright, so I think this is the green I used before. And we're just going to go back over our stems. And our leaves. Now if you want to do more realistic flowers instead of the stylized version that I'm doing, I will cover that in a later episode on how to get more realistic pictures from watercolor. But this is just to help you play with the idea that things do not need to be solid or perfect in any manner, and it can look just as beautiful with the spread out version, or the idea of that there is a flower there. All right, there's that one. We're going to head back to our trail. See, my tree took off in the sky up there, but that's okay. You can easily fix that if you have something like that and it's still wet, which mine is. I kind of just erase it with a clean, damp brush. Alright, let's add some darker tones to these trees by using less water on our brush. And again, these are pine trees, so think how pine trees look. I'm just dabbing my brush across. And you see how that, where I made the trunk and some branches, it fills in a little bit darker just because it's an actual groove in the paper that I put. And I think my branches need to be a little bigger down there, so I'm going to use a bigger brush. There we go. Alright, let's move on to our other trees here. And just dab, 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 back and forth. Just like so. Alright, so some of you might be saying, but Miss Carrie, the trunks are brown, not green. So if you really want some brown in there, use a clean, dry brush. And I'll show you how to remove that too. But if you have too much water on your brush, you can always touch it to your paper towel to get more of a dry brush. So you can use more of a dry brush and add some brown to your stem. It takes a lot of playing with your paint and your brush to get the right consistency that you want to see on your paper, or the right width, or however you want to look at it. It doesn't come naturally to know how much to put on and how little to put on or anything like that. You really have to play and be willing to make some mistakes. Now I dropped my paintbrush, so I just got a wet brush that's slightly wet. I don't have it sopping wet, and I'm just gonna blend that into the background. And I need to redo my trail anyway, so that's how we fix that. Get a little bit more brown for my trail. It's going to go around this way. Just like so. Now if you want your sky a little bit darker, you can go ahead and grab some more blue, and I get most of my water off my brush, and I'm just going to drag it across the sky just like so. A little darker blue in there. And there you have that. Alright, our last picture will have to wait, and I would love to see what you write on your mixy crazy picture page that you made here. So that is it for this week, or this month I should say, And I'd love to see your paintings, so go ahead and snap a pic, email it to me, and I'd love to show it off to the world. So I will see you again next month. Thank you.